Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share a follow-up story about my second experience with a rental car provided to me by my Genesis dealership. The first time I processed a reimbursement for a car rental, it took me 73 days to see my money back. This time it only took 13 days of emails back and forth with Genesis Corporate just to get reimbursed for $214. And while this waiting time was a great improvement, it wasn't without drama. So here's what happened. I had to take back my Genesis GV70 to the dealership again, this time for additional service related to the ongoing fuel injection issues that I've had with this vehicle that I've talked about in this channel. If this is your first time here, maybe you want to go through my list of videos on this particular car. And once again, they did not have any loaners, which meant that I had to rent a vehicle. This is not an uncommon situation, but what followed was frankly pretty frustrating. Initially, I told the dealership that I would need a rental car for my wife to move around while the Genesis was getting fixed. And the dealership gave me a case number to call Genesis Corporate, who agreed to cover the rental cost for up to $80 per day. So I went ahead and got the rental car. I had it for a total of 5 days and I paid out of pocket, confident they'll be reimbursed promptly as they had instructed. This time, I made sure that I follow up more actively to see just how fast I could get my money back. I submitted all the required paperwork, the rental agreement, receipts, the works, and waited for the reimbursement to come through. This time around, I used all of the knowledge that I had learned from the first time that I had a rental reimbursement claim with Genesis. And although the car was serviced on February 7th and I picked it up a few days later, I was still working to get my money back from the first case that I had done in December. And I just didn't want to open a new front until I had my money back for the first service call. So as soon as I had my $280 in my pocket, the first thing I did, I went to genesis.com and updated the existing claim. I did so by entering the case number that the dealership provided me with. I did not pull this number out of thin air. It was the number that the service advisor gave me. On the website, you have a box where you can type any additional notes, and my message said, "Seeking reimbursement for a car rental from the above case number as requested on February 7th of 2025. But here's where things got a little complicated. The next day, the following message from the regional customer affairs arrived at my email box. "Hello, LTO. Thank you for your correspondence. As previously mentioned, your reimbursement has been approved. Please check your email as instructions will be sent out to you on how to accept and retrieve the funds. The email gets sent out automatically within 14 to 21 business days. Please let me know if you have not received it by 3/26/25. We will be closing your consumer affairs case at this time, but if you need any assistance with warranty concerns or manufacturer defects in the future, please call us." Upon reading this message, I suspected that Genesis Corporate was not aware that this was a different reimbursement claim, so I replied clarifying. "I hope you're aware that this is a separate reimbursement for another car rental. The case number I submitted for this second claim was provided to me by the dealership at the time that I dropped off the Genesis for service on February 7th. The attachments I submitted last night will show a different work order for a separate repair and a separate receipt for a separate rental vehicle. Please let me know how can I expedite the reimbursement process." I replied the same day and within business hours again to expedite the process as humanly possible. That was on a Thursday and I did not hear from them that Friday, and then the weekend came and I obviously didn't expect them to follow up on the weekend. Then the Monday came and I got a call from my case manager who apologized and then told me that I needed to call Genesis Corporate to request another case number because they cannot reopen closed cases. Keep in mind that she said that I needed to request another case number because this will come handy later. I attempted to take a shortcut by calling the dealership to see perhaps they had the right case number and erroneously had provided me with the wrong one. My service advisor was not available, but whoever took my call said that only my original service advisor could help me. Nobody from the dealership called me back ever. When I called Genesis Corporate to request another case number, they told me that I did not need a new one, that all they had to do was reopen the original one, which they did, which untangled the process. That Monday, there was a lot of emails back and forth. Then I went through a process that I was familiar with already. I got an email from them that was missing the proper attachment, and then that email was followed up with the correct attachment included in the email with a copy of their offer letter for me to sign, which I did right away the same day, and I emailed it back. 2 days went by, and then on the 12th, I got a phone call from the case agent stating that they were still waiting for for my reply. And I made sure that I did not resend it, but what I did is I forwarded them the same email that I had sent 2 days ago. I did this to show them that I was doing my due diligence to get my money back as soon as possible. It's all done through Zelle, and while Zelle is very convenient for some, it's not the easiest method for everyone, especially if you haven't used it before. You have to set it up and all that. Frankly, it just feels like an unnecessary, cumbersome process for something that should be straightforward. Remember how I wound up here. My local dealership did not have any loaners to provide me with, as advertised in the Genesis website. And because of this shortcoming is that I wound up paying the price. This experience has really highlighted some of the areas in which Genesis as a brand could improve their customer service, especially when it comes to elevating the ownership experience. After all, when you're dealing with an issue that is not your fault, the last thing that you want to do is jump through hoops to get reimbursed. I did know that Genesis usually ranks pretty low in customer satisfaction, and now I am an owner who just became part of this statistic. In my particular case, I live in an area where there's only one dealership within 70 miles. It is perhaps that Genesis has grown too fast for their own good. For comparison, I have 2 Lexus dealerships within 50 miles and 4 within 45 miles. Competition is always good, and whenever I had a Lexus that I had to take in for service, I've never experienced a shortage of courtesy vehicles. And from what my service advisor just told me, my local Genesis dealership only has 5 loaners. That's 5 cars for the whole metropolitan area of San Diego and east of me. The next dealership east of me is 300 miles away in Arizona. I experienced a lot of confusion in all of the moving parts involved in my last 2 services, and this is a quick list. Number 1, the first time a customer affairs representative told me that I had done everything to get my money back, and it wasn't true at all. That sent me on a 73-day wait to get my first reimbursement check. Number 2, the second time around, my local service advisor provided me with the wrong case number. Perhaps they treated this visit as if it was a continuation of the first repair, which wasn't the case at all. This was a separate issue for a different fuel injection assembly. Yes, it was knee replacement, but this time was the right knee and not the left knee. Number 3, when I submitted my claim with the wrong case number, I get a reply stating that the issue had been resolved. And when I made the clarification, Regional Customer Affairs told me that they couldn't reimburse me because I needed a new case number because the one the dealership gave me was already closed. I called Genesis Corporate, and turns out that I did not need a new case number. I just needed the original one reopened. Do you see some Murphy's Law going on here? Everybody at Genesis that I dealt with that could be confused was actually confused and provided me with the wrong or imprecise guidance or information. That was very annoying. And all because I made the terminal mistake of asking for a rental because they could not provide me with a courtesy car. It almost seems like it was their first time making this type of accommodation. The only way to avoid this hassle is if they don't have a courtesy vehicle, just don't request a car rental at all. If you have an extra vehicle that you can use while your Genesis is getting repaired, I will definitely go that route. But in doing so, you'll be skipping the convenience that is listed as part of the experience on their website. So there you have it, my follow-up experience with the rental car reimbursement process from Genesis. While I appreciate that they eventually covered the cost, the 2-week hassle to get $214 back was incredibly frustrating. If you've had a similar experience or have tips on how to navigate through this process more efficiently, drop me a comment below. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing for more car-related content. My name is Juan Carlos. I'll see you next time.